South Korea squared up against Mexico for a crucial Group A game at this year's FIFA World Cup, with thousands of fans gathering this morning in Gwanghwamun Square downtown Seoul to support the national team. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has officially confirmed that the ceasefire deal between Washington and Tehran had come into effect, triggering 60 days of talks. Meanwhile, the White House said Vance postponed a planned trip to Switzerland for talks that were expected to begin on Friday. Iran's supreme leader has revealed that he initially opposed the new U.S. Iran peace deal, but ultimately gave his approval after receiving assurances that Tehran's interests would be protected. He also warned that Iran would reject any additional demands from Washington and accused U.S. President Donald Trump of pursuing the agreement out of desperation. South Korea's crucial Group A clash against co-host Mexico has just ended minutes ago. For the latest from Gwanghwamun Square, we go live to our correspondent Garorim. So, Haerim, what's it like at the scene?
Yes, so indeed, South Korea suffered its first defeat of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, falling to co-host Mexico 0-1. The two sides went into halftime at 0-0, but Mexico broke the deadlock in the second half and secured its win. Fans have experienced an emotional roller coaster to every attack and near chance as the Taeguk Warriors searched for a way back into the contest. South Korea still has one more group stage match against South Africa to secure its place in the knockout round. For now, supporters here are leaving the scene looking pretty disappointed, but hopeful the team can bounce back to their final group stage match. Back to you, Lindsay.
All right, that was our Haerim reporting from Seoul's Gwanghwamun Square. Thank you for that, Haerim. Now, as the World Cup fever builds across North and Central America, a unique bond is garnering attention: Mexico's affection for the South Korean national team. Our Kim So-young has a story.
In Guadalajara, Mexico, the World Cup is everywhere. Walk down any street, you will find families decked out in green, all of them, right down to their dogs. The plaza in front of Guadalajara's cathedral buzzes with the same energy Gwanghwamun Square has during a major match. But here, something stands out. Among all the green jerseys, there's a surprising amount of love for Korea. A local reporter starts with one name.
Heung-min Son is an international player and quite popular all over the world, especially here in Mexico. And Mexicans also like the Korean culture, especially the K-pop artists like BTS, Blackpink.
And then there's the memory that no Mexican football fan has forgotten. At the 2018 World Cup in Russia, South Korea defeated Germany, which helped send Mexico through the round of 16.
How can I say grateful about that somehow the Korean players helped the Mexican team.
Football fans here aren't just supporting their team. They're keeping a close eye on Korea too.
I think this tournament probably is a good chance for Asian teams to reach the higher levels.
Sports and culture have a way of bringing people together across borders. And in Guadalajara, that connection between Mexico and Korea feels as alive as ever. Kim So-young, Arirang News.
The 60-day implementation phase under the U.S. Iran ceasefire memorandum of understanding is officially underway. Talks were set to take place on Friday in Switzerland with J.D. Vance in attendance, but doubts were cast on the meeting taking place after the White House said the U.S. Vice President would remain in Washington. Our Kim Junho reports.
The 60-day implementation period under the U.S.-Iran agreement has officially taken effect. Speaking at the White House on Thursday, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance confirmed that the clock had already begun ticking.
I would say the 60-day period officially started today. It was signed late, and it may have even been signed technically, because of the time shift. I think it's signed technically today, Iran time. So, yes, the deal started yesterday. We're going to start the 60-day clock today.
A formal signing ceremony was scheduled in Switzerland for Friday. But according to the BBC, mediator Pakistan said it had been cancelled after the agreement was signed remotely. U.S. and Iranian representatives are still expected to meet there, although negotiations on Iran's nuclear program may not begin as planned. Earlier, Vance said he will likely travel to Switzerland for what he called technical negotiations, adding that the schedule remains fluid and describing Iran as a difficult counterpart.
We think these technical negotiations are going to start sometime this weekend. That's still the plan, but that could change because it's not an easy country, Iran, to get out of.
But later Thursday, a White House spokesperson said the vice president would not be departing that night, casting further uncertainty over the diplomatic timetable. Stressing that any economic benefits for Iran are conditional on full compliance, the vice president defended the agreement as a worthwhile test of Tehran's intentions. He also said the Strait of Hormuz should remain open and free of tolls after the 60-day implementation period. On Israel, he called for respect for the peace process with Iran, saying civilian casualties in Beirut are not acceptable, while describing President Donald Trump as Israel's strongest ally. Trump also wrote on Truth Social that the U.S. is committed to peace and expects a complete ceasefire involving Lebanon, Hezbollah, and Israel. The message underscored Washington's apparent effort to prevent any renewed fighting from disrupting the next phase of negotiations with Iran. 김준호, Arirang News.
Iran's supreme leader has revealed he initially opposed the new U.S. Iran Memorandum of Understanding, but ultimately approved the deal after receiving assurances that Iran's interests would be protected. Meanwhile, U.S. officials say Tehran is expected to invite international inspectors to its nuclear facilities as part of efforts to implement the agreement. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei says he initially opposed the recently signed Memorandum of Understanding between Tehran and Washington, but ultimately approved the agreement after receiving assurances from Iranian officials that the country's interests would be protected. In a statement carried by Iranian state media on Thursday, Khamenei said he held a different opinion on the deal, but authorized it after President Masoud Pezeshkian and other senior officials pledged to safeguard what he called the rights of the nation. He added that those officials accepted responsibility for the agreement. Khamenei also warned that Iran would reject any additional demands from Washington, saying Iran's leadership would not accept what he described as American greed. At the same time, he endorsed future direct talks with the United States, stressing that face-to-face negotiations would not imply acceptance of Washington's position. The Iranian leader also accused the U.S. President Donald Trump of pursuing the agreement out of desperation, while reaffirming his approval of the plan. Meanwhile, Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff reportedly told U.S. lawmakers that Iran plans to invite inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency to visit its nuclear sites and begin efforts to identify and recover enriched nuclear material believed to be buried under rubble at damaged facilities. According to people familiar with the closed-door briefing, Witkoff said the U.S.-Iran agreement contains no secret side deals. However, he disclosed the existence of a separate letter between Tehran and the IAEA that would formally extend the invitation for inspectors. Witkoff said the letter to IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi would allow international inspectors, including U.S. nuclear experts, to participate in verification efforts inside Iran. Under the agreement, Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium must be diluted under international supervision, and Tehran has again committed not to develop or acquire nuclear weapons. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
It may look thrilling from the ground, but fighter jet flights subject pilots to extreme forces, disorientation, and oxygen loss. Defense Ministry reporters had a rare chance to step into that world to find out just how tough it really is for South Korea's Air Force pilots. Our Kim Bo-kyung files this report.
When watching pilots fly in the sky, one might think, I could easily do that. But even after only a little training, you'd know that it's not true at all. A group of reporters got a chance to experience the training actual pilots need to do at the Aerospace Medical Training Center in Cheongju, Chungcheongbuk-do Province. Dressed up in flight suits, reporters received health checkups to ensure their safety. First was spatial disorientation training, requiring pilots to rely on tech rather than human sensory perception. This was followed by fighter jet emergency ejection training, where trainees are propelled upward by activating the ejection switch, preparing them for situations where manual escape is impossible due to extreme speeds. The highlight was the G-test.
G-test is one of the toughest challenges for trainee fighter pilots. You must withstand up to 6 times the Earth's gravitational force. I'm about to experience it for myself. Wish me luck.
Gravitational acceleration is measured in G-force units. F-15K fighter pilots experience forces up to 9G during sharp turns, and if they don't breathe properly, they risk G-lock, which makes them lose consciousness. Reporters were asked to go through 6G for 20 seconds, and this left me dizzy, sweating, and stiff. But I managed to stay awake.
I did it!
Following the G-test, we move on to low-pressure chamber training, which was even more challenging. As a fighter jet climbs, oxygen levels drop, and we experience conditions equivalent to 25,000 feet above sea level. We had to constantly monitor blood oxygen levels and use supplemental oxygen to stay alert.
We provide training to help participants experience and understand high altitude and high G conditions pilots may face from an aviation physiology perspective. We hope today's training gives you better insight into Air Force operations, and we will continue working to ensure flight safety.
From disorientation to high G forces and oxygen deprivation, the tough training offered a rare glimpse into the extreme conditions fighter pilots endure. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Cheongju.
South Korea is seeking to expand the UNESCO World Heritage listing of its tidal flats, with Seosan's Garorim Bay now under consideration. Home to one of the country's most pristine coastal ecosystems, the bay is recognized for its rich biodiversity and ecological significance. Our Cho Young-eun went to check it out. When the tide pulls back, vast tidal flats emerge, formed by sediment carried and deposited by tidal currents. This is Garorim Bay in Seosan, located on the western coast of Korea. It is the nation's largest marine protected area and is one of Korea's 갯벌, or tidal flats. Several of those tidal flats have been recognized by UNESCO World Heritage. And now Garorim Bay is also looking for UNESCO recognition.
This is Seosan's 갯벌, and it is our responsibility to protect it. We are very pleased about the UNESCO nomination and believe it is one way to pass on a clean and healthy marine environment to future generations. Local residents and fishermen are very supportive of the effort.
Local residents say preserving the tidal flats is about more than protecting nature. It is also about preserving a way of life that has sustained generations.
These tidal flats helped us raise our children and make a living. We catch octopus here and sell it. This place is truly a treasure. Even if there's nothing to eat at night, you can come here in the morning and earn enough for dinner.
When UNESCO inscribed 4 of Korea's tidal flats in 2021, it also pointed to an important task ahead, proving the ecological connectivity and integrity of the tidal flat ecosystem.
Migratory waterbirds depend on multiple tidal flats throughout their journey. If the second phase inscription is approved, Korea's tidal flats will be recognized not as isolated sites but as a single, integrated ecological network with outstanding universal value.
The final decision is expected to take place at the 48th session of the UNESCO World Heritage Committee, scheduled to take place in Busan next month. The outcome will mark an important step towards safeguarding Korea's one of the most valuable natural treasures. If approved, the expansion would recognize the ecological connectivity of Korea's tidal flat network, bringing greater international attention to the vital role these habitats play in sustaining global biodiversity. Cho Young-eun, Arirang News, Seosan. From Seoul to Paris, K-pop's global momentum shows no signs of slowing down. After a special concert this week marking 140 years of Korea-France relations, our culture correspondent Park Gun-woo caught up exclusively with NCT WISH and 82 Major.
15 years after SM entertainment artists brought one of the first major K-pop concerts to Paris, a new generation is now following in their footsteps.
15년 전 파리에서 SM타운 콘서트가 처음 열리면서 파리 시민들이 시위까지 하면서 콘서트가 더 많이 늘어나게 되었는데요. 15년 뒤 NCT WISH가 이 파리에서 공연하게 된 느낌은 좀 다를 것 같아요. 어떠신가요?
We were able to perform overseas thanks to the artists who came before us. We hope to continue growing and become artists loved by even more people.
NCT WISH says events like this highlight how music and K-pop can serve as a bridge between different cultures.
Music connects people even more strongly than language does. Through our performances and music, we'd like to help people understand each other's cultures and become closer.
They even hope to collaborate more closely with French artists in the future.
France is known for so many great dancers. It would be amazing to collaborate with French dancers or perform choreography created by them.
While NCT WISH just began its journey in Paris, 82 Major has already experienced the city's passion during a recent world tour stop.
We learned a popular French football chant and tried it during our last concert. The crowd immediately joined in, and even after we thanked them, they kept singing it. That was a really touching moment for us.
The group's growing international presence recently earned it a place in a new government-backed program designed to help promising K-pop acts expand overseas.
With the support, we hope to introduce Korea to even more people around the world. We want to incorporate more Korean elements into our music and performances.
올해 한불 수교가 140주년을 맞이했는데요. 이제 K-pop 아티스트로서 그 문화 교류의 가교 역할을 어떻게 하고 싶은지 궁금합니다.
We hope to become a bridge connecting fans from both countries through music. As we learn more about French culture, we also hope French fans will continue embracing our music and culture, creating a meaningful exchange.
And judging by the reception they're receiving, the connection between Korea and France through music appears stronger than ever. 박건우, Arirang News, Paris.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. Ukrainian drones blasted an oil refinery in southeast Moscow for the second time in 3 days on Thursday, igniting a powerful blaze just 16 kilometers from the Kremlin and causing major disruption across the Russian capital. All flights were suspended and the busiest Moscow airport, Sheremetyevo International, was evacuated. The strikes are part of a wider Ukrainian campaign to cripple the oil revenues that finance Russia's war efforts. By hitting critical infrastructure inside Moscow's Ring Road, Reuters reports that Kyiv is also sending a symbolic message that it is turning the tide of war, a point President Zelensky made to G7 leaders in France this week. But a Kremlin aide denied that the battlefield situation was shifting in Ukraine's favor. The Chicago Mercantile Exchange sued the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission on Thursday over its decision to let prediction market platform Kalshi and crypto exchange Coinbase offer perpetual futures. CME argues the contracts are swaps under the 2010 Dodd-Frank reforms and that the regulator acted arbitrarily in approving them as futures. The lawsuit seeks to void the CFTC's May approval for Kalshi to list a Bitcoin perpetual future. Perpetual futures track assets like cryptocurrencies, carry no expiration date, and allow high leverage with global trading volume reaching $61.7 trillion last year. The CFTC calls the lawsuit, quote, frivolous, and accuses the exchange of fearing competition from rivals. Apple CEO Tim Cook says the company will raise prices across its products to offset surging costs for memory and storage chips amid an AI-driven supply crunch. Cook said the company could no longer absorb the cost and that higher prices were unavoidable, with analysts saying the next high-end iPhone could cost $270 more. The price of memory and storage chips has jumped fourfold since last year as Google, Microsoft, Meta, and Amazon pour money into AI data centers. Cook called the swing a, quote, 100-year flood unlike anything in his 4 decades in the industry. The chip market is dominated by just 3 players: South Korea's Samsung and SK Hynix, and America's Micron, whose share prices have soared more than 800% over the past year. The United Arab Emirates has set a minimum age of 15 for social media use, becoming the first Arab country to introduce such a restriction amid growing global concern over the impact of online platforms on children. Under the rules approved on Thursday, those under 15 cannot open or run personal accounts, meaning no posting, commenting, sharing, or joining public groups. 15 and 16-year-olds may use platforms only with added protections such as screen time limits, parental oversight, and curbs on contact from strangers. Companies must verify ages through digital identity or AI tools rather than simply trusting what users enter, and they have 1 year to fall in line. Ju Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
The summer heat remains intense today, with heat advisories continuing across parts of the capital region and parts of the Gyeongsang-do provinces. But welcome relief is on the way with widespread rain. But before the rain system moves in, passing afternoon showers are expected across the central regions and parts of the Gyeongsang-do provinces, with 5 to 30 millimeters in the forecast. Then a much-needed rain system will gradually move in later today. Rain that began over Jeju this morning will spread to the rest of the country and continue through tomorrow, with downpours expected further south. Rain will cool things down, but not today. Seoul gets up to 33 degrees Celsius, Daegu topping out at 32 degrees. Rain will gradually ease from western regions tomorrow, then we'll have more comfortable temperatures next week.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.